Hey athletes, so rumor has it you guys have been asking questions about ergogenic aids, and even more specific than ergogenic aids, you're asking about caffeine in particular. So I just wanted to put together a little informative slideshow so you guys could quickly look at some of the information and decide for yourselves what is best. So I want to just start by offering what an actual ergogenic aid is. And what it is it's just a substance that is going to enhance your performance. It's going to do so by enhancing your energy production, use, and recovery, and it's going to increase your overall efficiency. It is frequently used to give that competitive edge and help you improve your performance as you are participating in your events or training or lifting or practices. Now we're going to just touch a little bit on what caffeine is, because I know that's where the question has been really moving towards. And caffeine in general is a nervous system stimulant, and it is considered to be an ergogenic aid. Caffeine is so popular. I mean, 80% of the globe consumes caffeine regularly. So it's not abnormal to think, hey, why shouldn't I use it for my athletic performances? Caffeine does increase alertness. It gives you an increase in your endurance, and it also gives you an increase in strength and power in your power-based performances. So let's talk a little bit more about what some of the benefits of caffeine are. So the benefits do increase your alertness, increase your overall energy. It does reduce your fatigue. It increases your ability to concentrate and focus. It does give you a higher tolerance to pain. It improves your reaction time. It improves your perception of your energy level. So it kind of gives you that mindset of, oh, I'm loaded with energy and I'm ready to go. It does have an ergogenic effect on your vertical jumps, your agility, your running distance in a game, your repeated sprints on the court or the field. It does give you the upper hand during games due to that better physical performance. And if you're looking at basketball specifically, it will provide a boosted ability to perform during competitions. The potential disadvantages of caffeine, just like with anything nutrition-based, you do have to look at how well you tolerate caffeine. I tolerate it very well. I love caffeine, but I could take a nap after I drink a cup of coffee. I know some people who drink a little bit and they're very jittery afterwards. So you have to actually assess this for yourself to determine whether or not it's going to be ideal for you. When you're dealing with caffeine, like I said, it's important to find the right dose and to be mindful of your training and competition schedule. If you have a late night training and you drank caffeine or took caffeine and it is affecting your sleep that night, and you have a early morning game or practice, that might be something you want to skip that day to get the benefit of the next day, because unfortunately some of the negative side effects of caffeine could include insomnia, being distracted or overly stimulated. It can give you a sense of edginess. It can give you headaches, and some people are very susceptible to like gastrointestinal upset. It can increase your activeness, and it also can give you heart palpitations and tachycardia. So that if that does not work well with your body, then I would avoid it before games or practices. It can also increase your anxiety and increase your urine output, which can, caffeine can be considered somewhat of a diuretic. Not a huge one, but it can be considered a diuretic. You just want to balance it with hydration and water intake. The types of athlete that benefit from caffeine, well, considering all of the ergogenic effects that caffeine does have and the overall improvement in exercise performance, it is really widely used in the athletic population. Research actually implies that 75 to 90% of athletes do in fact ingest caffeine prior to their competitions. Caffeine has ergogenic effects on aerobic endurance, high intensity efforts, muscular endurance, sprint performance, and your maximum strength. So due to, all of the effects that caffeine really can provide, basically any and all athlete would really benefit from, dosing a little bit of caffeine. So interestingly though, the National Collegiate Athletic Association does have a little bit of a limit on caffeine levels. And what they're going to monitor is the levels specifically in urine. And it's about 15 micrograms per milliliter, which really equates to approximately 500 milligrams of caffeine, which is like 6 to 8 cups of coffee, 2 to 3 hours prior to an event. So that's a significant amount of caffeine. I mean, it's limited, but you'll still benefit from doses lower, much lower than that. So it's not a crazy restriction. Caffeine is considered a restricted substance, but it is not banned. Okay, so that's important to note. All right, let's see. The recommendations that I would give you guys, just based on the current research, in general, I would consume that caffeine about 1 hour prior to training or your competition, or like a lifting schedule that you have on or off season. But again, I would observe your individual tolerance levels to caffeine during your practices and training and lifts. I would not I would not just go and take in the caffeine and see how it does me during the game, because that's just too risky if you don't know how you're going to react. To actually find your comfort zone with caffeine, I would really have you consume caffeine and monitor how much you did take and how you felt during and after your workout training session. And then I would carefully document it. So if you took an observation, an example would be, I took in 250 milligrams of caffeine, not what I would recommend you start with, but let's say you ingested it, you went to Starbucks, you had a cup of Joe. It made me feel anxious and distracted and jumpy. So if that occurred, maybe that's just a little too much caffeine for you, and you would monitor it next time, go with a lower dose and write down how you felt during that. And then you could really assess what's going on with your body when you do intake caffeine, and then you could just adjust it from there. Or you might decide it's not for you. An individualized plan is always going to be the best with caffeine consumption especially. But again, the recommended dose could be anywhere from 1 to 3 milligrams per kilogram. So like a 135-pound athlete, let's say, would kind of get a dose recommendation of about 61 to 183 milligrams, okay, of caffeine about 1 hour before their competition or training or lift. This can be ingested through coffee, pills, bars. There's a lot of ways that caffeine can be ingested, but my one recommendation is that you really avoid like caffeinated energy drinks, because a lot of times they contain other stimulant substances or stimulant-like substances that can like interfere or enhance caffeine, and I just wouldn't recommend that. I would recommend, what you're comfortable with, but I would kind of stay away from those substances in the energy drinks. If your training or competition is longer than 2 hours, then an athlete can actually consume a limited dose of 80 to 120 milligrams during that game. But again, I would never do this during your competition unless you've already done this prior to the competition. I wouldn't just throw it in, just willy-nilly. All right, so this was just a little information for you guys. I'm happy to talk to you more about it if you want to come in and talk to me. But if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to email me and come and see me and we'll talk. All right. So I hope this helped, and have a great day.